Hello and welcome to today's Q&A session on raising bilingual children. My name is Rita Rosenbach. I am the author of the book Bringing Up a Bilingual Child. I'm also the driving force behind the website multilingualparenting.com as well as the Facebook page multilingualparenting.com. We also have a Facebook group that you're welcome to join. If you do so, do not forget to answer the 3 joining questions, because otherwise your acceptance to join the group will be delayed. In addition to writing a book and writing blog posts and answering Q&As, I also do individual family language coaching, where I help to create a bespoke family language plan for your family in your specific circumstances. Today I have 4 questions that I am answering, and if there are any further questions in the comments, I will try to pick up those too. So let's go straight into the questions, and I'm starting with Beatrice's question that she posted on the page last week, and she writes, she's German. Her husband is of Russian background and they live in the US. The situation is that they have a 3-year-old son who is bilingual. His German is the strongest, and then English is his second language, and he also knows some Russian. That was due to the limited exposure to Russian he's had so far. They also have a 1-year-old son who Beatrice's husband is now more consistently speaking Russian with. And Beatrice's question is, how can they introduce Russian to the oldest son so he at least would be able to participate, understand a little, and not feel excluded? Congratulations on already getting him to speak 2 languages, and I am sure you can manage with the 3rd as well. The fact he's only 3 years old, you are well in time, and he will be able to pick up the Russian as soon as there is more consistency and more exposure to the language. It's great that your husband is now speaking more Russian to your little ones, and I would recommend that you include the elder ones into these discussions. Because the younger one is only 1, then you can very much, your husband can very much run these situations based on the elder son's interests. So do things that he is eager to learn and what he finds interesting. The 1-year-old, he will just follow his elder brother, and he will just soak up the language as you go. So there is no need to specifically focus on the younger one. I would recommend to focus on the elder one. And how do you do it if he doesn't understand that much? Well, include him by using actions. So do something together where it is clear from the actions what is meant. Take a familiar game, for example, and play it in Russian and repeat the same phrases over and over again. Or do something in the kitchen, do some cooking together. Don't know if your husband does cooking, but this is one idea. Or something outside that they love doing. So not thinking of teaching Russian or now I'm doing the exposure, but naturally doing things together and a lot of repetition. And then what is really important is to show enthusiasm when you notice that he understands something. And if he were to say even something that is remotely similar to Russian, show how happy you are that he's learning it. So make the Russian exposure on the elder son's terms and make sure that he gets engaged. And then that will serve two purposes. It will give the exposure to the younger one, but also engage the older one. And you have to just look at the situation, how it evolves. And if one thing doesn't work, then find another. Children do get excited when there's something they're really interested in, even if they don't understand the language. I've seen this with children that do not share a language, but just because they want to play with each other, they do participate and they do communicate. So just believe in your ability as a parent to engage your child. Use that to introduce Russian and be enthusiastic about it. If you can find some Russian-speaking children for him to play with, that would be good, but I understand that it's not always easy. But and also bring him in when you do some Skype calls to friends or relatives that speak Russian, so he gets more used to having Russian around him. Beatrice, please do add any further questions in the comments or here if you're listening now, or in the recordings, and I'll pick those up as well. The next question is from Mayra, who is wondering which language to use at home. She is from Brazil, so speaks Portuguese, and her husband is from Argentina, so speaks Spanish, and they both live in the US, so they have two minority languages at home. And Mayra's concern is that her two daughters, now Mayra, I don't know if you are on the call now, please let me know how old your daughters are. But in any case, Mayra's daughters are, pardon me, mixing Spanish and Portuguese because they are very similar. Keep in mind that bilingual children learning two languages, and in your case, probably three languages at the same time, because they're also learning English from the environment, do mix their languages. This is normal behavior for a bilingual child to grow up, independent of how closely related the languages are. I've just experienced that myself with my grandson recently when he puts English plural endings on Swedish words. So a button is knapp in Swedish, and a plural would be knappar, but he speaks about knapps. So he's got the Swedish word plus the English plural ending. Am I worried? No, I'm not. It just shows that he knows what a plural is, and he knows also that he needs to construct that, and then he picks the one that he happens to know. So that's a plural S from the English. So I am not the slightest concerned about it. It's just a fascinating thing to observe. Of course, if your daughters are significantly older and they are consistently mixing languages, then you need to also think about how you yourself and your husband, how you two speak. Do you mix the languages when you speak with each other? Because if you do, then the girls will also pick up that way of speaking. Would I be overly concerned about it? To be honest, no. This happens in many families. And the thing is, what you need to do is to make sure that they get exposure to purely Spanish. So through your Spanish-speaking family, or in playgroups, or any other way, even depending on how much screen time you allow your children to have. You can watch Spanish children's TV together. I would always recommend parents to watch these programs together with the children. I'm not against screen time altogether, because it can be a tremendous help for arranging exposure. What I do recommend is to discuss what's happening, make it interactive, maybe sometimes even stop it and ask, what do you think will happen next? Or do you think that was right? Or do you think that the rabbit will find what he's looking for. Anything what's happening in the what you're watching, in the program that you're watching. So do this. So you do it in Portuguese and your husband in Spanish. And also, if you can arrange visits to back to Brazil and Argentina, those are very good at reinforcing the languages, so that they get the chance to be immersed in situations that are in one language only. As I understand it, you do not speak any English at home, which is great, because when you stick strictly to Spanish and Portuguese, that's what they will get used to. And you just have to believe in yourself and in your capability to pass this on, and try to avoid mixing too much yourself when you speak. So if you speak, it doesn't matter, I presume you both know each other's languages. So when you speak one language only. It's okay if you speak Portuguese and your husband answers in Spanish, that's fine. Because what will happen there is that your daughters identify that language with a certain person. So that's fine. Mixing is normal. Don't worry too much about it. But if your children are already older, then think about the situation at home. Are they hearing mixed Spanish and Portuguese? If they are, then that is naturally what they will also pick up. Children will learn what they hear. Don't we know it, especially with words that we do not want them to learn? So that was Mayra's question. Next, I have a question from Federica, who's Italian. Her husband is Japanese, and they live in Australia. I seem to have trilingual families all the way today. The daughter is 3 months old. Congratulations, she's quite new, fantastic little baby. And Federica speaks Italian, and her husband speaks Japanese. Federica is also fluent in Japanese. So when they are all together, they mix Japanese and English with their daughter. Of course, at this point, she's not responding much, but it's good that you're thinking about this now, because it's important to get into a routine that you can follow later. So Federica asks, should we decide on one language only to use when we are all together, or is it okay to use them all? Generally, in multilingual families, several languages are used in conversations, and that's normal. In my family, we had, when my daughters were growing up, we had, after moving to England, we had 4 languages that we balanced. And have they grown up to learn the languages, the daughters? Yes, they have. They are now both adults, and my eldest daughter is now raising a son in Swedish and English here in the UK. So with regards to your family, Federica, so since if you stay in Australia, then what will happen is that English will sooner or later become your daughter's strongest language. So in my mind, it's a good idea to try to keep English out of the home as much as possible, because you already have 2 minority languages to juggle, and as I understand it, it's important for you that your daughter grows up learning both Italian and Japanese. And especially with regards to speaking to her directly, I recommend that you always stick to your language. It's ideal that you also know Japanese, because then you won't feel left out. I don't know whether your husband understands Italian, but still, it is very important that you speak Italian to her consistently, because especially after she starts nursery or school, there will be less time for the Italian and Japanese exposure. That's why it's so important to establish that routine and to make it as strong as possible before she goes off to nursery or kindergarten or so on. Then because you have two minority languages, so there will be competition for the exposure time. So if you've established a strong routine, what I'm saying here now is, like I mentioned earlier, if you can keep English out, it would be good, because what happens otherwise when your daughter gets more exposed to English through the environment, through friends, through school, then English easily kind of makes its way into the family. And if you've already got used to using English as a common language, then what usually happens, I'm speaking about experience from several other families, so what happens is that English gains more and more space because it's the easier language to use. So to kind of counter that in advance, I recommend to stick to the minority languages only at home. So then you have this solid routine of her always speaking Italian with mom and Japanese with dad. And then when you're all together, you speak Japanese. So that would be my recommendation. So the language that will need most support is Italian. So if you have a chance, for example, to hire an au pair or something, then I would recommend you would take someone who speaks Italian. Or if you find a play group, then put the emphasis on the Italian, because that's the one where you will be needing support. And again, like with any questions, Federica, if you're listening now or if you're listening and recording, please add further questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to respond to those as well. Hi, Jessica. I'll pick up your questions at the end. So after Paulina's question, which is next? Paulina, who is Polish, her husband is English, and they live in Singapore. So that's two languages, Polish and English, but one of the main languages in Singapore is Mandarin. So Paulina is wondering how to introduce Mandarin. They have a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. Ideal ages to introduce another language. So because I would say ideal, because both of your children are still very, very, very young, and they will easily pick up another additional language. So in your family, because English is one of the languages of Singapore, although you will find it is something called Singlish as well. So you will find a different variation of the English, but anyway, it is English. So English there won't be any problem for your children to develop and maintain their English. So Polish is the big thing you need to concentrate on. It's great that your husband has been learning Polish, because then you don't have to think about excluding him. And what you can do is to, maybe not all the time straight away, because that would be too tiring for your husband, but you could start to introduce Polish as your home language. You could start this on certain days, for example, or in the mornings. So you are in situations where you all speak Polish, including your husband, because that would strengthen the Polish position in your language situation or in the family. And with regards to Mandarin, You haven't mentioned whether you will be staying home with your children, or whether they will go to kindergarten or nursery, because if they do and you choose a Mandarin one, Singapore is a very international place, and all the nurseries will be used to having children with different mother tongues. So if you choose, there are also multilingual nurseries and kindergartens and schools in Singapore, so you might consider one of those. But if you want to concentrate on the Mandarin, you could think about finding a monolingual Mandarin nursery to put your children in. Of course, what you need to take into account that they will learning a language that I presume you do not know as of yet. So if you're planning to stay in Singapore, I presume you will also be learning Mandarin as well as your husband, and that's fine. I would also, however, keep it as learners. So you wouldn't try to start using Mandarin at home with your children, because that will inevitably limit the Polish exposure. So keep the Polish at home, and then add the Mandarin through playgroups, or you could also hire a nanny who speaks Mandarin, so you would get Mandarin exposure through there, or an au pair who speaks Mandarin. So you have many options, but I understand that you're keen on introducing the Mandarin, but do not lose sight of Polish when you do so, because I presume there will be less chances to arrange other Polish exposure to your children except from you. So it needs to all come from you. So arrange the Mandarin exposure through other means, and your husband will continue to speak English, except on those days maybe when you introduce Polish as a family language. But you're lucky to have so many languages in your family. So that was Paulina's question. Thank you very much for those questions. Let me just see, Jessica, I will just have a quick read of your question. So you have a child, it's 1 year and 9 months. You speak Portuguese, and father speaks Turkish, and you live in Turkey. You and your son, it's a son, isn't it? You and your husband speak English, because that's your only common language. Yes, that's a very common situation amongst international couples. You try to expose your child to Portuguese as much as possible, but it seems that he's late in his language development. So have you had this established by a therapist, Jessica, or is it your feeling? Is it your feeling? Thank you, Paulina. Because 1 year and 9 months, he speaks 5 to 10 words, and Jessica, does he understand? Does he understand the languages you speak? Does he understand like simple commands? I mean, understanding and doing is two different things. I know that, but okay. I can't see any answer from you, Jessica. He doesn't use you. All right. So you said he doesn't seem to understand much in any of the languages. So what you should be looking for is progress. So write down, like today, write down every single word that he knows in any of his languages. And knows, I mean, understands or expresses. It doesn't have to be perfectly pronounced words, just that you know what he means. So write them all down, and then keep a diary of this, and then let's say couple of means a month, couple of weeks or a month, and then do the same, and then check whether there is any progress. If you feel that there is no progress at all, then you might want to speak to your pediatrician to see if there's anything else. You also mentioned that he's gone quiet. That is quite normal amongst bilingual children. At some point, they do not say anything at all, and that can last for a while. But for is not too yet. So to me, I wouldn't worry too much. But of course, you are the mother, and you will have the better instinct. You know your child, but by keeping a diary of what exactly your son can understand. So two things: what can he understand, and what can he express in one way or another. It doesn't have to be clear words, just how he communicates. Right, thank you, Jessica, for answering those questions. Once I finish this session, what I'll do, I'll put in a link to a website that you can check, compare your child's progress to what would be expected. What I would say is that if you feel worried, Jessica, then speak to your pediatrician, maybe ask for a referral to a speech and language therapist, just to put your mind at ease instead of worrying, because it is not good to be worried as a mother, and it should always be taken seriously. But to me, what I read from it, that he still understands something, he says some words, so there is some language development. That's good. But take stock, write down everything he knows now, and then do the same after a month. If you feel that there is no development at all, then maybe speak to your pediatrician about it. But I think he will be doing fine. I had myself, my youngest daughter, I actually had to wait until she was almost 3.5 before she strung a sentence together. So these vary very much. My younger daughter spoke 2 languages. All the words she knew in both languages when she was about 2. So that's how big a difference there can be even between siblings. So if you have known some other, so please do not compare your children to anybody else's children, because the more important thing is to keep an eye on the progress. Okay, thank you very much. Jessica, did that answer your question, or did you have some other? Right, so, and I can see your last comment. All the professionals you've talked to say that you should stop speaking Portuguese. No, that's absolutely wrong. That's an old-fashioned advice based on incorrect interpretation of research. This is not true. You changing your language, stop speaking Portuguese to your child, he would feel even more bereft. Not even more. He would feel, sorry, that was not the right expression. He would feel bereft of your common language. So please do not stop speaking Portuguese. That is very important. I know it can feel frustrating, and it can feel like you'd better support the stronger language, but he's not yet 2. It will come, but do not change your language. Do not drop a language. That is not. That's not the right advice. I would recommend that you would turn away from professionals that tell you to do this. and look for someone who is used to dealing with bilingual children. So dropping a language is not the answer. I wish you all the best, Jessica. Please do comment further if there's anything else you'd like to discuss. But that's all for today. Thank you very much for attending, and please do keep those questions coming on. You can send them through comments on the website or to me at rita@multilingualparenting.com. Thank you very much. Bye.